So now I want to say something about Lawrence Stone, who further developed Peter Lasley and other demographic historians' works. Lawrence Stone is also an English scholar, a historian who moved on to Princeton. He used to study land deeds and property, so he could substantiate what Peter Lasley and others had developed in theory and conclusion based on numbers. He published this work called The Family, Sex, and Marriage in England from 1500 to 1800. And this is his most famous book in his later phase of his career when he moved from, down in University College of Oxford to the Dutch professor of history at Princeton. Princeton's history department then ranked number 1 in the United States. This is the abridged edition because the original has more than 1,000 pages. But it was published in the 1970s with a very elaborate introduction and explaining how he would work the materials, his theories, and then, he explained family characteristics and decline of kingship in patriarchal nuclear families developing from the 16th to the 18th century when other nuclear families formed until the early 19th century. He also talked about sexuality in upper class attitude behaviors in gentlemen and sexual behaviors with case histories, and the plebeian, namely ordinary people's sexual behavior that we would talk about in sexuality. The conclusion about the facts with his interpretations give the form for post-19th century developments. So, which help us to understand, therefore, in English we have different terminology such as home, family, house, household, clan, genealogy. In Chinese we have different terms too. 家 could mean different things from modern term of 家庭 or the traditional term of 家族 or 宗族. But 家 usually means both family and households. Are made of people who live together under one roof and eat together, 同居共食. So the family in terms of organization include kingship related by blood, reproduction, or kingship related by marriage. Then we have many semi-domestic relations in the urban era, when individuals could develop individual households, and for sojourners, they could live with other families. It is important for us to see how, different places in different times change along with the family, or you see historical change as reflected. This is a picture from early United States, late 19th, early 20th century United States of a household. This is a Chinese household when photography came to China too. So historical demography wanted to tell us about birth rate, namely fertility, death rate, mortality, migration, but it also wanted to explain how marriage looked like, changing from traditional to modern society. For instance, in traditional China, divorce was not allowed. That was not the term, that was not the concept, that was not the practice. Some of you will study that when qi chu becomes the modern divorce. So Lawrence Stone wanted us to admit that the best way to start an analysis of family structure is to establish demographic facts. And some of you are in your abstracts I see are looking at demographic figures of Hong Kong or modern China, which dictated many of the basic features of families, including independent variables such as emotional commitment. That's for modern societies. And people think the greatest change from a traditional society to a modern society, whether it's in England or in modern China, is to change from a collective, collectively lived, extended family society to first nuclear family, and the nuclear family was made of individuals. That is, rugged individualism, fight for the freedom to marry freely, to fall in love freely, to choose their mate freely, rather than accepting the parental assignments, arrangements by matchmakers. So these did not alter dramatically over time, but they change from class to class, and it is very important for us to be conscious and aware of the different manners people behave about their marriage choices between people with land, people who are professionals, people who are businessmen and wealthy, people who live, let's say in Hong Kong or like in England, belonging to the top 3 to 5%, who dominated the mainstream society. And yet you have at the bottom of society the plebeians, what Lawrence Stone called plebeians, the average, moderate, modest, or marginally, supporting themselves, those people who form the majority of society. In chapter 2, Lawrence Stone gave the demographic facts, namely, he wanted to stress the importance of studying marriage. I want to. That's why I organized this course about marriage and sexuality, because he quote early 20th century saying from Paris, sort of stressing the importance of private life. This is a quote saying, the public life of a people is a very small thing compared to its private life. So even though social sciences and humanities history included especially, used to tell a lot about people's public life. That is, the war and peace, the treaties, the institutions, the politicians, about the top, all of these larger events. But history used to tell people very little about how ordinary individuals live in their private lives. What kind of everyday life they have, what kind of material conditions, what kind of behaviors they treat their, men and women to each other, and parents and children. So, to understand fairly of those who lived long before us, we should put apart both the usages and notions of our own age, first of all. That is, we would not carry our current late 20th century, early 21st century notions to read back to the behaviors of our parents or grandparents' generation. We need to strive to adopt, for the moment, what they used to do, what used to prevail in their time as the important framework. This is a Lawrence Strong quoting Lady Stewart's words in his journal of Edinburgh, produced in the early first half of 19th century. So until Lawrence Stone and Peter Leslie, that is, until post-war scholarship, we have very little, detailed domestic history. Most valuable of all, that would enable us to make comparisons with people's autobiography, such as Francis Pace. So there were four key features that modern English family by the middle 18th century begin to show the pattern. One is that people are becoming more and more affective, that they are attached to their family members. So first, intensified affective bonding. And we begin to see a core, what we call nuclear core. And then people begin to see their family as different from those who are their neighbors or extended family, they call kin or in a clan. That's first. Second of all, people begin to have a stronger and stronger sense of individual autonomy, that people wanted to pursue individual freedom and the right to have personal freedom, especially in pursuit of happiness, and then see marriage as a key, allowing an individual to make the choice and to pursue personal happiness. Thirdly, there's a weakening of the association of sexual pleasure with sin and guilt. People used to be shy to talk about sexual pleasure or physical experience. In Europe, it's because of the Christian code of behavior. In China, because of Neo-Confucianism. I would talk about that later. And there's also a growing desire both for physical privacy and physical pleasure. That's fourth. And so this is very important. I want you to think about this in your personal study, your paper. Different social class may have different demographic behavior, may pursue these in different ways, but in their family formation, in their family life, they show evidence of this. So I would also begin to, urge you to look at the films and the novels we recommended, such as Jane Austen's novel Pride and Prejudice, or the very famous Russian novel Leo Tolstoy's Anna Karenina, that would show the pursuit of personal pleasure and freedom and the physical privacy and love. We assigned Dorothy Kuo's work and Susan Mann's work to show you how in late imperial China, with the Ming pre-cultural, becoming very, very prosperous and lively, that the Song Ming Neo-Confucian restrictions on people's life could be replaced by erotic novels such as Ding Ping Mei and Mu Danting or others. And when by the Qing period, the more companionate marriage become a norm in the educated class, replacing the orthodoxy.